Hello, everybody. My name is Aljoša Jankov. I'm a consultant for innovation and technology at OTP Bank, Serbia. I just discovered process mining last year, and I was totally amazed by the field due to my prior experience with data analysis and predictions. So I'm not a process mining expert just yet. We are still learning, but we did apply process mining to several of our processes, and I'm here to tell you a story about one. And that is how Disco revealed insights for improvement in the process of sending credit or debit cards between different branches of our network. Okay? So, but firstly, a few words on the OTP group. It is one of the major banking groups in Central and Eastern Europe. It is present in 12 countries of Europe and Asia. In Serbia, it is one of the leading, OTP Bank Serbia is one of the leading financial institutions in the country, and it is the largest creditor with over 730,000 active clients. It is also positioned as the leader in green transition as the company in Serbia. And we have a network of 153 branches, just like this one in Novi Sad, that span across 90 different cities. And since we are focused on innovation as well as on digital transformation, we wanted to apply process mining to improve this process. So this is a quick simplified description of the process. So at first, a client receives an SMS message that he has a renewed credit or debit card that awaits for him at a branch that was entered in the system as his parent branch. So this is usually the branch where he became the client of OTP in the first place. But for some of the clients, it happens that in the meantime, they switched cities, they changed jobs, or maybe moved to different neighborhoods, and now there is a different branch that appears more convenient or closer for them. So what a client can do, they can reach out to their preferred branch by appearing there, or they can contact our call center. And at this moment, our process begins, because now there is a request for this transfer, and the status of this request at this point is number 1, entered. So we have a process where we have a sending side, a sending branch, and a dedicated sending employee, and a receiving bank and the receiving employee at the other side, and the post office in the middle. The moment when the sending branch sends the card to the post office, the status is changed in the system to number 2, sent. And when the other side receives, the dedicated employee should sort out the card and change the status in the system to number 3, completed. At this point, the employee should immediately reach out to the client, and then finally the client can appear at the branch and pick up their card at the preferred branch. We also have status number 4, deleted, because in some cases clients change their mind or something other occurs. And we do have process rules that state that both sending and receiving side should happen within the time limitation of 48 hours. We also have set up the triggers in the system. So what it begins when the task is received by the employee, he gets an email, and if he doesn't complete this task in the first 24 hours, then the trigger is executed, and he receives a pop-up message in his core banking system. And if an employee gets up to 4 warning messages, he shouldn't be able to do anything in his core banking system. Yes, that is the way of navigating this process. So we knew that this process was kind of a pain point in our branches, so we wanted to get a better look with process mining tools. And to do that, we needed data. So this is the situation what we had in the beginning. We had some optimization rule that our system was using for the reports, and it was forgetting the history and only saving the last status to show in the reports. So we needed firstly to request from our IT to create an archive log, and then we received this newly created data table that appeared to have everything that we needed. So we had a status name, we had number of those notifications that were recorded, and we had when we wanted to check, to test the correctness and the validity of this data table, the first thing we noticed is that we had two time columns. So the one named data and time status, it was reflecting only the status changes, while the other one, it was reflecting all the changes of all the other items in the data set, except for the statuses. So after some communication with our IT and analysis department, we converged to one universal SQL query script with one universal date column that appeared to be this one, but after the corrections, and it could be used. Later we used it as input into Disco. As the case ID, we used the request of our IDs. For the activity, we opted for the combination of the status name and the number of those notifications. And we also used labeled resources such as codes for the branches, both sending and receiving side, as well as the sending and receiving banker that were dedicated for the task. And there were also some other data such as ID of the client, brand name of the card, and commentary if there were some in the system. And we used those for when deep dived into analysis. So when we loaded everything into Disco, this is what we had as the high-level process discovery. The process owner, she wanted us to only take the data where we had the complete process involved. So those are only those cases where we had the beginning step and it ended with the number 3 or number 4. So at the end it appeared to be 38% of the cases, about exactly 873 cases. The thing that interested us the most were these time limitations. So we can see by the median that the most of the cases are compliant with these rules, which is 2 times 48 hours for the process. But the mean case is slightly higher, it's 5.6. And on the time distribution, we can see that the center is on the left, and we have a long tail on the right. So there are some extremely long cases that increase the mean. By looking at the times for these specific paths, we can see that the median from number 1 to number 2 is about 27 hours, which is compliant, but the mean is 67 hours. And for the second path, even the median is 46 hours, which is really close to limitation of 48 hours, and the mean is even higher. What we also noticed is this path that led from number 1 to number 3. So this shouldn't be able to happen by the procedural rules. And we were investigating what was this about. Maybe this newly created data table wasn't correct after all, or is it some kind of workaround that the employees in the branches use to neglect this part of process? But what appeared to be is that it is some kind of old automation rule that is used for the duplicate requests. So it is possible scenario that we have one request to make some transfer to single branch, and for that request, for that credit card, we had multiple requests. So the decision that this led us to is to cancel out the option to create a duplicate request if there already is an unfinished one request for the same transfer per the same card. Next up, we deep dived into time analysis for the late cases. We split the process into 2 portions, and the first one was focusing on the sending that took more than 48 hours. So it is about 38% of the cases out of all that were late in this part. What Disco can do, it can instantly get us the report for the most responsible branches, as well as the dedicated sending employees. When exported to Excel, we can see the count of the events. In Excel, by using the Power Pivot table, we could see the distinct number of cases. And we could also see the most dominant variants. So the most dominant one was the case where the employees waited up until the fourth and the final warning message, and only then they were sending the cards. Okay. So about 90% of the cases, of the late cases, the employees receive at least one warning message, while about 10% don't receive any warning message at all, but they were still late. By looking at the same process, but through the time perspective, we can see where the bottlenecks are by looking at the total duration. And we can see the two key areas. The number one is from the moment where the employees received an email about a task, and between the first warning notification and the second one is when they receive the final notification up until the very sending. When we switch to median, we can see the difference between median and mean. So for the first bottleneck, both numbers are around 42 hours, which was insightful, which meant that for late cases, just for the first step to this first notification, only the whole amount of 48 hours has been exceeded. And the second one, it's higher, it's about 71 hours. The median and the mean is about 4 days. So cases that reach this part of path belong to this most longest and most dominant variant. The second part of the process, from the moment the post sends the card and till the moment the employee receives it and sorts it, is almost like a mirroring reflection. Now we had 42% of the cases. Instead of looking at the reports of the sending branches and employees, we could see the receiving ones. Also, the most dominant variant, about 60% of the cases, is the one where the fourth and final warning is received, and only then the status is changed in the system. And also, okay, the 90% of the late cases in this portion of the process have at least one warning notification. About 10 are late without any notifications. Bottlenecks appear to be in the same places, and medians and means are a bit different. For the second bottleneck, the median is slightly lower. But in the end, some deep dive analysis with HR data and some with Salesforce efficiency unit told us that the reason isn't that the employees are lazy or something, but there are some organizational problems where the employees, some of them, they work in one branch for a few days in the week, and then at the rest of the week they move into different branch. So during these switches, the customer suffers at the end. Okay. So to summarize our results, we had this situation where we could have one credit or debit card with multiple opened up requests for the same transfer, and as soon as the one reaches number 3, completion, all of them are going to completion, and this is this skipping path that we had. So the decision was made, and I might say it was implemented a few days back to cancel out this option. And now when we load data the next month, we are hoping to see a process that doesn't have this skipping path. And this minor simplification would ease up some frustration that our employees had with this process, because we interviewed them. This is the one thing that they pointed out, how some of the colleagues, they open up new requests instead of closing the old ones, and a happier employee would eventually lead to more satisfied clients. As for the second thing, this time limitation for 48 hours is what we had, and we had set up a trigger to be executed after 24 hours. So the idea is to push back this trigger so that it happens just after 4 or 5 hours, so that the employee receives the first warning message during the same day if he doesn't complete it immediately. Because when we were looking at the most fast cases, those were the situations where employees didn't wait any of the notifications. So our expectation is if we push this back, every step closer to the sending of the initial task would lead to decrease of the number of late cases. Okay, so all of these slides were mostly logical and statistical, but coming from innovations department, I wanted to take a more creative approach to process mining. So what we can see at this picture is also a camp, and we can imagine these scouts trying to make a delivery to the tent. So what Disco did to us, it served us as a tool such as binoculars and helped us see the way ahead. And with Disco, we could see all the misleading and difficult paths and bottlenecks such as bears and deep lakes. And for every deep lake, there is a possibility to generate an idea for a raft. And what that means for digital transformation is basically that the process mining could point out the difficult parts of the process, and every difficult part is an opportunity to introduce some kind of automation, RPA, or maybe some other kind of organizational innovation. What we can also see on this picture is wood, actually resources such as lumber, right? So this other picture is designed to enable me to talk about solutions rather than problems. What this also did for us is it enabled us to get the full end-to-end process performance reports. And we can make reports on our resources, but we can also make a report on our resourcefulness. And what does that mean? Instead of looking at negative outliers, which is the most urgent thing to do to check conformance when we apply process mining, the other thing what we can do is to examine the extremely fast cases, and in that way we can see what are the best practices. In big companies, it's usually not the lack of ideas that is challenging and holding back the innovations, but it's the inability to develop further those ideas and to scale them across the whole organization. So basically, if the process mining tool can help us point out who are the champions of the process are and where the best practices are, we can get some of the ideas. So it works in both ways. And since we are facing a world where machine learning algorithms and data are rapidly changing everything, I think the best strategy for ideas and innovations in the future is to combine big data with small data. While one thing sets the hypothesis, the other one can test it, and somewhere in the intersection, the best ideas and possibilities for innovations are lying. Thank you. I hope that you liked it. His attention.
We have time for one question. You have a question for Aljoša?
Okay.
Usually, if I wait, someone has one. Yeah, please.
I have one question. On your performance graph that you showed us, I see that you only have, let's say, the instant activity. But if you are really focusing on process performance, it would also be nice if you would have, let's say, the actual activity performance versus the time in transit. So was there a specific reason why you have chosen for this type of analysis, or was it just the data that was not complete enough?
Okay, what interested the process owners, which are from the customer experience department the most, were these time limitations, and this was the part that was being measured by tracking this process. But also on this previous slide, did you ask about this view about the
performance graph? So the next one.
This one was the frequency, this is the time performance. I think Disco has to offer these two views. You can see total duration or the median, Ermin. Okay. Did I answer to your
What was the
question?
question again? Maybe you can repeat.
The question was, in the performance graph, you only see, let's say, the transit time of between activities. If you're interested in analyzing your process performance, it would also be nice to have more detail on the actual activity. So how much time is an employee spending on the activity, and how much time are we losing in transit due to the postal office or whatever. So,
okay. Yeah. What the process owners told me is that the post office, they usually do their job in 24 hours. So that should be happening somewhere where the first step in this view is in between the second one. So this is what we cannot differentiate. Yes, we only have these status changes, but they were assuring me that the post office, they do their job exactly in the beginning of the next day. The cards are already there. So this is not the problem, but actually sorting those cards and entering in the system, which is the same in this part where there is no post office, which is like a mirror reflection where we had just a sending presented. You see this one?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's also not so much a problem, right? To make people work faster if it takes 2 minutes or 3 minutes. I think it's a nice example that shows here that the actual problem is the delays. Right?
Yes, delays, because we have some champion cases which are being done in the first few minutes the next day. So usually the minimum is at least 24 hours, and then after some time the employees get their job done. But here we can see the average is like 42 hours, the same as in the next step.
Thanks a lot.